So I guess the question I want to throw out to all you fine folks out there, do we really need Android in the glasses? I've got so many props for this. Reaction video, right off the cuff. I've just finished watching the Google I/O keynote presentation for 2025. Most of this keynote was detailing Google's plans for AI development, also for AI search, how Google just seems to be running headlong into content theft. Make sure none of those websites get traffic. It's totally fine. It's great. Snarkiness aside, towards the end of the presentation, one of the last pieces that was presented up on that main stage, we got more details on Google's future plans for androidxr, XR glasses. It was one of the most encouraging parts of any presentation that I've seen on some kind of optical system. This made me really happy. This is a very critical step in consumer education, helping consumers delineate different products for different situations. There are going to be times you want that really immersive virtual reality kind of experience. And then there are going to be times where you want something that's just really simple, basic, and gets out of the way. But too many people will glom on to one specific application and say, well, that's what a headset should be. If it's an Oculus headset, that's really what people want, is a mixed reality pass-through kind of experience. Where I might be looking for something that's just more smartwatchy. Can you give me at-a-glance information that's easy to consume in that moment? Apple Vision Pro is a very bad solution for that kind of brief at-a-glance smartwatchy kind of interaction, and glasses like these would be terrible if I wanted to watch a movie on them. As a fan of all of these different products and glasses and categories, these different experiences, it's been frustrating because I kind of feel we still approach this with an all or nothing kind of marketing strategy. If you put glasses on your face, they should do everything, and that's definitely not the case. So already, right off the bat, I am on board. I am really happy that Google, and especially the Android team working on Android XR, are looking at these different kinds of experiences and recognizing we're going to need different solutions for different situations. This presentation was very light on any kind of tangible or hard information. We did get, of course, that disclosure. Google is working really closely with Qualcomm and with Samsung. Samsung Project Muhan got another plug, even though we don't really have more information from Google on what that's going to be like. We did at least get the tease that it will be available later this year. It could be later this year this summer, or it could be later this year just in time for Christmas. It's going to be sometime later this year. I'm personally not really interested in that Apple Vision Pro kind of experience. That's not really what I'm looking forward to, especially when I want a bigger visor or headset. For something like that, the kinds of multimedia entertainment experiences I'm looking for, I'm really curious what Valve's strategy might be in trying to compete against Oculus. For me, gaming, media, entertainment, television, that kind of headset, that makes more sense for those kinds of products, those kinds of companies. What I've been desperate to see Google revisit is more the original incarnation of Google Glass. I enjoy wearing a smartwatch, but there are so many more situations these days where I want that information up at eye level. I am referencing my phone screen a lot less these days when I'm out and about. I'm even cranky when I have to look down at my watch. If it's a product like these, this is a prototype of the Halliday glasses that were showcased at CES. I also have the dev kit from Vuzix with a little waveguide optic in these sunglasses. And then my daily wear glasses, you've probably seen me put these on for a number of my videos, the Evan Realities. All three from different companies, from different manufacturers, different software, different companion apps, but they all talk to my phone to deliver information accessibly up at eye level, brief, short little interactions, a lot less distracting than stopping my day to look at a smartwatch or look at my smartphone screen. Google's big push this year, though, is AI. Google is now an AI company. They're an AI brand. So everything has to have the AI, which means we need to incorporate even more hardware and sophisticated processing directly into the glasses before we hand that information off to a more powerful brain in your pocket, like your smartphone. None of these have cameras. That's not the AI solution these companies are trying to present. So we lose out on some of that Android XR sophistication of being able to look at something and then using speech to interact with Google Gemini as an AI assistant to look at an object and get information back on it. But that takes a lot of onboard hardware, compute power, battery life. It is so impressive to see how much smaller these XR systems have gotten. As you see these two presenters take the Google main stage and talk about the glasses that they're wearing up there on the stage, they look a lot sleeker. There's still definitely something going on. The frames are a bit chunkier. The arms over your ears are a bit heavier. This is wild evolution from where we were in the original Google Glass days. But if we sacrifice something like having a camera to interact with those kinds of services, and we rely on microphones and waveguide optics, we can make these experiences even slimmer, sleeker, and deliver better battery life. The question I asked at the top of this video is, do we need Android in the glasses? And I want you to think about some of the experiences maybe your family and friends have had. Maybe they've moved from a Fitbit to an Apple Watch. Maybe they have a Pixel Watch instead of their older Fitbit or some other kind of fitness tracker. What's one of the things we consistently hear as feedback? Making that kind of transition, moving over to that newer, more robust computing experience, is now they have a watch that they need to charge every day, instead of having a fitness tracker that they could charge once and then use for a week. The experiences, the solutions that I've been playing with the most are basically just a portal to my phone. There's a lot less happening here in the device because I have a super powerful, a supercomputer mini pocket brain in my smartphone. Sending the information down to the phone kind of chews that information up and then brings it back up to eye level, and that handoff has worked really well. It's been working really well even back in the Focals by North days. It's absolutely crazy that Focals by North, a company that was later bought out by Google, that these were 5 years ago. And the progress that we've already made in terms of optics and battery life, wear, how they fit, how they feel, absolutely stunning. A tremendous evolution to get to something that's lighter, more natural, more discreet. It is so encouraging to see more companies approaching these kinds of solutions, and now a larger entity like Google taking the stage during their biggest developer keynote to talk about these kinds of advancements. We have been promised Apple glasses. That's the big hype machine. Apple glasses are totally definitely coming someday. Media outlets cranking up that hype train, promising that kind of hardware since the original introduction of Google Glass, with basically nothing Apple has ever shown us that they have a product that might someday make it to market. That's all the positive stuff. I'm very encouraged by these next steps by Google, but I do feel it's a bit necessary to critique and maybe criticize their presentation just a little bit, because a lot of the things that they're showing us don't seem like grand or radical evolutions over what we originally saw on Google Glass. The main improvements seem to be the miniaturization of the hardware, but a lot of the services still play out in very similar ways. When we talk about the companies that are making in this space, they're much smaller boutique brands, or Vuzix, they are an industrial brand. They don't really have a lot of consumer-facing marketing or media. So when I talk to people about this in my circles of family and friends, and I show them the glasses that I wear, there is no awareness of what these systems can really do today, what these systems can already do. When you get notifications up at eye level, that seems like science fiction to someone who isn't tapped into Google keynote presentations and tech review videos on YouTube. It's like I just slingshotted that person 10 years into the future, which isn't a wild estimate because Google Glass was a while ago. A lot of people stopped paying attention to this space after Google Glass kind of flopped in the consumer market. It is kind of cool. It is encouraging to see some of this rich graphics, fluid animations, that kind of UI coming to Google's presentation. But that's not fundamentally different than what we had with Google Glass. It's evolved, but I feel a lot of us would have expected bigger evolutionary steps over a decade of development in this space. And there are some times where I feel that the processing required, the work in developing a prettier UI, doesn't necessarily always help the practical experience of just getting to a piece of information faster. Little things like the menu on my watch to get a notification, have it animate up on the screen, then scroll that dial, touch a microphone icon because I want to hit a reply, that then processes for a second and animates. All of that kind of slows the interaction down. On all of the current glasses that I'm playing with, we're not really as concerned with having the notification pop up and expand and become pretty. I just get a piece of text right up at eye level. I know that's a little less exciting to show a keynote stage presentation, but that's actually more the interaction that I want when I'm walking around a grocery store and my wife texts me that we're running low on pepper, can I get a new pepper grinder? I feel glasses are that next step evolution over watches. A traditional analog watch is a very specific kind of wearable technology designed to deliver a tiny little piece of at-a-glance information. And the more streamlined and the more efficient we make that interaction, the better the watch succeeds. That's the same philosophy that I hope we'll approach with future XR glasses and the implementation of face computers and face displays. There are going to be times I want really rich, cool AR systems, but more often than not, I want fewer distractions during my day and shorter distractions. So these glasses become brilliant gatekeepers to the information that's on my phone, but they're stopping my day less. I get the information as quickly as I can and I just kind of move on with my life. From this presentation, I worry that Google really hasn't taken to heart the original criticisms of Google Glass. You're seeing other companies like Meta put cameras into glasses. They don't have fancy optical displays, but, well, maybe we've gotten over that hurdle. Maybe we're not as concerned about privacy issues and people recording content, putting cameras in places where a lot of people might not want cameras. But they're just in your glasses, and now everybody has smart glasses, so what are you gonna do? You just have to suffer a few bad apples that might ruin it for everybody else. That was one of the main sticking points, one of the main problem issues originally from Google Glass was, oh, you just don't know what all of these people, all these glass holes are gonna be doing with cameras on their face. While I might not get some of those fun features like being able to record video of eye level, which rarely is something that I want to do when I use the cameras on my phone. I'm often composing for a different field of view than what my eyes would naturally capture. A lot of the other things that we see in this presentation are things that are already immediately accessible by glasses today. Even dev kit glasses like the Vuzix already have a platform, a well-established companion app that can do a lot of the processing and a lot of the translation and a lot of the mapping, similar to what we saw in this presentation, in this keynote. You download a little language pack and that lives on your phone, and then the glasses, listening through the microphones, can do pretty quick translation. It's not something that we really need the cloud to do. And this is another one of those areas where Google is doing a very poor job of delineating what is AI that's happening on your device and what's AI that's going up to the cloud. It needs to be processed up online. And especially during the presentation where they're trying to do a translation demo and it gets kind of stuck. It gets a little locked up, trying to get information up on stage through the Wi-Fi. There's just not enough bandwidth with so many people looking at their phones during the presentation. But if we could crunch that information up on the phone, because our phones are ridiculously powerful now, and we just had a little language pack to help us with those interactions, I don't have to worry that a major feature of my glasses might not function. It got a really big round of applause where you saw turn-by-turn navigation. You saw walking directions to a cafe, and a simple little arrow pops up on the screen, and then the user looked down to see a broader map, which is already the system employed by Evan Realities. I get simple arrows just telling me where my next walking direction turn is gonna be, and then I look up and the Evan Realities will draw out a larger wire grid map of the area I'm in. And it doesn't require a duplication of processing in this device and then still need to talk to my phone. And that's the thing that I'm a little concerned about. That's one of the main concerns I have with Google's presentation on Android XR. Very little of what they showed on the Google I/O stage is inaccessible to the glasses we can buy right now. Eventually, we will get to a point where maybe we don't need a phone and we can just put everything into glasses and glasses will last for a day on a charge. And that's totally awesome. That is absolutely the science fiction goal that we should all be working towards. But it does make me kind of sad, especially for gadget enthusiasts, tech enthusiasts. How few people have really tried just putting this experience on their face right now. I want to float a TV out in space in front of me where a TV doesn't exist. There's one version of this idea that costs thousands of dollars, and there's another version of this idea that uses the computer you already own and only costs a couple $100. I just traveled to a city that I've never been to before, and I want to get walking directions to this awesome cathedral. There's a version of that idea that happens on really expensive glasses that kind of do all all the same things your phone can do. And there's a version of this idea that is still more expensive than a pair of sunglasses, but isn't as expensive as having a full computer on your face. What if I really want those AI search results? I can get those up at eye level right now today. I keep casually throwing this question out there to everybody, but seriously, I'd love to hear some comments. I'd love to hear some reactions to my reaction of the Google I/O keynote here. We've got watches and we've got phones and we've got tablets. Do we need another Android computer in the mix? Drop me some of those tasty hot takes, or maybe I'm just way off the pulse. Maybe what we really need is supercomputer glasses and we're willing to wait. I'm having a good time with all of these other glasses, but maybe I'm wrong. So definitely hit me in the comments below this video. As always, folks, thanks so much for watching, for sharing content, especially my rambling diatribes here and these kinds of reactions. The folks who get the sort of primary experience to that, I was sort of live vlogging the Google keynote over on my Patreon. We have a little live chat there. We also have the private Discord. So I hope you'll consider joining the community, because all of these names scrolling by on your screen right now, a huge thank you from the bottom of my heart, as these are the folks that are helping to keep the lights on here in the Gadget Lab and are the first ones who get to see my experiences with various different types of optical systems and face displays and XR experiences. They're basically the coolest tech pals in the universe. So I hope you'll check them out. I hope you'll consider joining the community. Patreon.com/SomeGadgetGuy. Now, you know where you can find me across the rest of the internet, at SomeGadgetGuy, basically everywhere. But these days, I'm spending a bit more time on the Mastodons, a little on the Blueskis, and a lot less so on the Facebooks, Instagrams, Threads, definitely none at all on that dumpster fire site. And I will catch you all on the next video, maybe watched on a pair of glasses.